doesn't love those Rocky movies? Besides CM Punk. But of course, this is an MMA channel. We're not a professional wrestling channel. But who is the MMA equivalent of Rocky? I think there's a ton of great choices. Matt Serra, GSP, Randy Couture, Tim Sylvia is a big Rocky moment for me. And I'm sure I'm going to cover it in the future. Royce Gracie, kind of that perpetual underdog back in the early UFC days. But one, though, that I think exemplifies the Rocky mentality is Frankie the Answer Edgar. Now, I'm a big fan of Frankie Edgar. I hold him in a very high regard. I think you can legitimately argue that he's the lightweight GOAT, especially if you are like me and you think he won both Bendo fights. So let's take a look at probably his most talked about fight, maybe ever. One of the best fights, just outright. And funny, I feel like no one talks about how good it is. They just kind of go, oh yeah, it's a good fight. It's so odd. So UFC 125 took place on New Year's Day in 2011 in Las Vegas at the MGM Grand Garden and Casino. It brought in over $2 million at the live gate with just under 13,000 attendees. So it only did 270,000 pay-per-view buys. But at least on a good note, we have the golden duo of Mike Goldberg and Joe Rogan. But enough of the preamble, let's get to the fights. So, really funny first fight on this prelim. Jacob Volkman beat the highly touted and perpetually super boring Antonio McKee by unanimous decision, then immediately had an interview backstage with Ariel Helwani, where he said for his next fight he would love to fight Obama, which got him a visit from Secret Service. This fight caused a chain reaction where he was seen as a potential threat to the President of the United States. Diego Nunes beat Mike Brown in a pretty close fight, I thought. Brad Tavares had a great finishing sequence against Phil Baroni. Dustin Poirier made his UFC debut on this card, and he did it by beating up human garbage bag Josh Grisby, who was actually gonna fight for the title against Aldo until Aldo pulled out. So, we're opening up the main card with a lightweight fight between Takanori Gomi and Clay Guida. Slow start to the fight with Guida kind of doing his herky-jerky movement, tossing out a lot of feints. But then after some delay, we see Guida fake a level change and go into a high kick that stuns Gomi for a split second, and Guida is trying to get something going. Guida does go for a low single. Gomi defends it very, very well. Near the end of the round, Guida goes for another kick into a double leg, but Gomi pops up briefly, then gets dumped right back down. Second round opens up, and Gomi's finally starting to land, even tossing in this big overhand right off a stance switch that hits the arm. This does force a shot from Guida. Gomi defends it really well, which forces another reset. About a minute and a half left, Guida does get a big takedown, and from there he's just moving all over Gomi. Gomi's trying to scramble out. Guida goes for a guillotine from top half guard. Gomi tries to roll over, and it allows Guida to further lock in the arm-in guillotine, and he gets the tap-out win. I'm going to give this fight a 6 out of 10. Not great, and I think it's above not bad. You know what I mean? Guida's always an odd case for me, like I was saying earlier. That constant herky-jerky movement. I feel like that kind of defends a lot of critiques of his inactivity, but at the same time, he does have some great fights in his career, and nothing against the fighter, of course. I have the utmost respect for Clay Guida. I'm not a Clay Guida fan, but that doesn't mean I can't, massively respect this legend of the Octagon. Next up, we have a great debut for the Retro Review series as Nate Diaz takes on Dong-Hyun Kim in a welterweight matchup. So, right now I'm going to get this out of the way. Do not expect me to do the smoking gag I did for the last Nick Diaz fight. It took way too many takes, guys. I know it was funny, but come on. But now we have both brothers in the Retro Review roster, and it's an interesting time for the more popular of the brothers. He was going 1-3 in his last 4 fights at lightweight. He did decide that, hey, cutting weight is for punks, and he went to 170, where he got 2 wins over Rory Markham and Marcus Davis. Dong-Hyun Kim, undefeated at this time, and with his only, blemish being a loss to Karo Parisian that was overturned. Karo Parisian popped out. And despite this impressive run, he really wasn't getting far in that division, and I have 2 theories for that. 1, he wasn't beating named opponents, really, and 2, he's kind of boring. So out the gate, the 2 southpaws kind of look at each other at range, trying to find their timing and their best distance management. Diaz pecking away with lead leg kicks, and he does press forward but gets taken down by Kim. A lot of holding, position and attempting to advance for Kim. He does nearly get caught in a leg lock, but Nate just uses it to sweep and stand up, which is, I always like seeing leg locks used like that. Second round, both guys opening up their striking a bit. Kim's using kicks and a looping overhand, while Nate is looking to step in with a lead right hook to set up a combination. After about a minute though, Kim does go for a takedown, doesn't get it immediately, then goes for another takedown and gets it. Then it's a lot of the same from the first round. Kim's trying to pass Nate, Nate's not letting him, some busy work from the top, and then some submission attempts from Nate, but nothing really too serious. Nate does get up with about 2 minutes left, instantly brought back down. Final round, and they're out striking again, and Nate has to feel like he's down on the cards. Kim does get a glancing head kick, which is kind of nice. Suddenly, Nate goes for the takedown with him getting the back clinch. Kim gets up quickly and pushes Nate off. Really cool scramble from both guys, but Kim ends up on top. Good scrambles on the ground. Kim tries to take the back. Nate escapes, goes for a leg lock. Kim takes him down. Nate just kind of turns on top gets on top of him. They get back into a clinch against the cage. Nate is trying to get something going with his punches and lands a Darren Elkins-esque head kick in the clinch. Kim does survive though, and he gets a unanimous decision victory. 5 out of 10, I think. Decent moments, but just like a lot of just passing the time, it feels like, on the ground. This fight exists. It's not bad. It's not good. It exists. That's what I'll go with. Next up, we have Brandon the Truth Vera taking on Thiago. I'm not going to comment much on him. Silva in a light heavyweight matchup. Silva rushes in, they clinch up. Silva just tossing hands and bombs. Vera landing a good inside low kick from the stance switch. Silva moves in again, eats some knees in the clinch, but he does get the fight from the ground. And here it is just a ground domination from Silva. The round actually ends with him going for like a double hammer fist, Donkey Kong style. Going for a leg lock, doesn't get it, just jumps right back in the half guard and lands some more ground and pound. So now we go to the second round, and once again we start with the bang as Vera moves in with some punches into a knee. Silva's eating some shots from the southpaw, and so he manages to press Vera to the cage. They trade some positions, but Silva lands a really good outside trip to land on top and is much more clearly dominating the ground exchange. Another easy round for Silva. Vera catches a kick from Thiago Silva, launches a body kick back at him that knocks the off-balance Brazilian down. Vera's looking to kick and move so the bigger Silva doesn't just muscle him down like the prior rounds, but it sadly happens again. And then he plays bongos on his back like he's doing that DK bongo game from the GameCube. The rest of the fight is just Thiago battering him while Vera tries to survive. Thiago Silva wins by unanimous decision. This fight's a 7 out of 10, and I really wish they striked more because the striking was really interesting and pretty fun, but once Silva got Vera to the ground, it was just a mauling, a kind of a fun mauling. I would love to talk about Thiago Silva at length because he was an interesting fighter, like in terms of his style and like history, but I'm not going to give a guy like that my time. You can go ahead and Google it if you're curious. Let's move on to something cool. Oh, and look, what's cooler than inducting a hidden hammer into the stable? As we got Brian Stann taking on Chris Lieban. All right, Brian Stann, absolutely first ballot Hall of Fame hidden hammer here. This dude was a ton of fun, tons of great fights in his career. He was testing out middleweight at the time. As in WEC, he was the light heavyweight champion. He did lose it to Steve Cantwell. Decided to go down to middleweight, and he started off with a submission win over Mike Bazinzio. And Chris Lieban, yeah, you know what? You're a hidden hammer too. You were like the prototype Justin Gaethje to me. Tough chin, big brawling power, barn burner of fights, and at this point, you're on the best run of your career. You have a win over Jay Silva, Aaron Simpson, and in one of the best fights of all time, you upset Yoshihiro Akiyama after 3 rounds of just the most beautiful fight ever. It's such a great fight, trust me. So out the gate, Lieban's trying to step in, trying to use a kick to work his way in and stand circling, wanting to drop a bomb on him on the counter. Early on, he does land a good short right hand while Lieban is stepping in to punch. Lieban goes to punch, step in with it again, gets caught. Then again, this time eating a 2-piece. Now they're just both collared up and just blasting each other. Good body kick by Stann. Lieban nabs the legs, looking to shoot, but Stann defends once again. Lieban's looking to engage again, but he's just eaten by counters, and this time gets dropped. Stann swarms on him. Lieban survives, getting to his feet, but is brought back down again with some body shots and one to the head. Lieban survives and is blasted by a big knee that puts him down. Stann is swarming on him for the TKO finish in the first round. This is almost an 8 for me. I'm gonna give it an 8. I initially had it down here in my in my script as a 7.5, but I'm gonna go with an 8. I'm really thinking about it. really close to an 8, and I think it's close enough. But now it's time for the main event. We have a lightweight title fight that sees Frankie Edgar looking to avenge his only loss in his career at this point against Gray Maynard. So Gray Maynard, this dude was super good and kind of lost to time. I think a lot of it was how he really didn't find excitement in his fights until later in his career, which takes away a lot of how he was probably perceived. But he was unbeaten at the time with the win over Frankie Edgar, but Frankie Edgar got the title shot before him. Frankie Edgar, he is fresh off his 2 wins over BJ Penn that got him the belt, and he's looking to redeem his only loss to Gray Maynard. As in the first fight, Gray Maynard just controlled him for 3 rounds. First round sees Edgar looking for his classic in and out style, with him using his footwork to circle and find an opening when he can, while Maynard seems to be stalking him. After some exchanges here and there, Maynard leaps in for a big shot that floors Edgar, sends him flying back, and now the rest of this round is just Maynard looking to land another bomb after another bomb after another bomb. Maynard hurts him repeatedly, and if I didn't know what I know now, I would want this fight stopped. Throw in the damn towel, Rock. Somehow, Edgar makes it until the end of the round. Second round, Frankie's moving a lot better. A good right hand lands as he's countering a check left hook from Maynard. Edgar's just kind of landing shots, moving really well. It's like the first round didn't happen. What's going on here? Another straight right lands that counters another check left hook, and it clearly stings Gray Maynard. Frankie's back in this fight in a huge way. He's in full control of the stand-up, and even later on, he takes control of the wrestling with a huge slam as Maynard steps in to push the pace. Third round, this round's close. Maynard's starting to calm down a bit. He's looking to kind of touch Edgar and then land the bomb. Frankie's still doing his thing, but he is eating some shots because of this new approach by Maynard. Maynard does get a takedown near the end of the round, which might have stolen, even though Frankie did attempt a guillotine near the end of the round as well. Early in round 4, Frankie gets a brief takedown, goes for a guillotine against the cage. It looks really, really good, but Maynard escapes. Frankie just scoops him down with a double leg super quickly, and the crowd explodes from this. Maynard gets to his feet, and now Frankie's the one stepping forward, getting a good low kick, then literally tossing Maynard off of him and lands another big right hand. A cool jab into a left hook for Gray as he's kind of loading up on it. Like, I feel like I can't just do this fight justice. There's something always going on. Frankie does drive in for another takedown. Gray defends it well, but he eats some of the hardest and cleanest punches I've seen from Frankie Edgar in the career. So now it's time for the final round, and once again, really hard to do this fight justice. Frankie is circling, darting combinations, good low kicks. Maynard's looking to find the timing for that big shot to either counter Edgar on the entry or to cut off the cage when he circles. Neither guy is leaving anything out of this fight. They're putting it all in there as the round ends. What a fight. Like, this fight's a 10 out of 10, right? 10 out of 10. I always forget how good this fight is myself. Great fight, isn't talked about enough. It's one of the best fights ever, easily one of the best fights ever. And I actually like the third fight more, but that doesn't take away from this fight at all. They do have an immediate rematch later on in the year, but I'm not gonna spoil that. Maybe I'll get to cover it one day. So after watching the whole event, what do I think? I'm gonna give this an 8 out of 10. I think the prelims are great and the main event spectacular, and I like the co-main. The early parts of the main card aren't great, but whatever. But like, just what a main event though. It's like a good movie. I saw a good movie recently, and that's all I'm thinking about in theater. Like, after I saw it in theaters, this is what this fight's gonna do. I'm gonna be thinking about this fight all day. But that's it for me. If you want to see me cover a card of your choice, then go ahead, make a donation to our Patreon. I'll cover just damn near anything, honestly. And if there is a retro review you haven't seen and you know, maybe you should go check it out and see, because I've covered a lot of these at this point, then check out our playlist on the channel. And you can watch me start off from a nervous young lad to, dare I say, this unbelievably charismatic and handsome man you see before you. And if you miss me, I mean, you can admit it if you miss me, then, and you just don't know how to satiate yourself, then go check me out on the second channel. I'm always there. I'm recapping UFC events right after they happen. I'm also on the preview show, so go ahead and check me out if you really want to. Once again, shout out to Tony for recommending this card for the Patreon. I had a lot of fun reviewing this and recording this. So I'm Joe at the INC. Thank you for watching.